In my previous life, I was abused by my father and exploited by my brother and sister-in-law. Unable to bear it any longer, I secretly moved out with my younger sister. I repeatedly warned my younger sister not to reveal our new address. My younger sister nodded seriously, then immediately leaked the new address to our family. I was beaten all night by my father and brother who showed up. After they had taken all my savings, they strangled me to death, before I died. I stared at my younger sister with wide, furious eyes, yet she pitifully declared her loyalty to our father. I never wanted to leave home. It was my sister who insisted on taking me away. Isn't she deliberately making you misunderstand me? My heart was torn apart, and I died with everlasting regret. Well, since you're so unwilling to leave, for the rest of your life, you can just stay locked up with your dear family. 1. After being reborn. I didn't have time to space out and quickly moved the last box of luggage downstairs. My father, Li Jingguang, is a man who favors sons over daughters and is extremely cruel. Alcoholism, gambling, smoking, domestic violence, almost all vices were concentrated in him, and it would not be an exaggeration to say he was guilty of unpardonable crimes. In the early years, after our mother could no longer endure the domestic violence and took her own life with medication, he turned his attention to my younger sister and me. From then on, we became his punching bags. Whenever he was the slightest bit displeased, he would beat and kick us. I desperately protected my younger sister, and then, after finally growing up and establishing a career, I was once again exploited by my brother and sister-in-law. My life was falling apart piece by piece in endless darkness. To completely break free from my family of origin and to provide a better life for my sister, finally, I had everything ready and ran away with her to live in another city. To prevent being found, I changed my name and severed all ties with my past. Not only did I start a new job, but I also successfully enrolled my sister in a local elementary school. It felt like a brand new beginning. I repeatedly urged her to keep her mouth shut and to absolutely not have any further contact with them. My sister nodded seriously at me, but soon after, she quietly sent a message to my sister-in-law, saying she was homesick. She also gave my new phone number to my sister-in-law, asking her to persuade me. Sister-in-law Chen-lan immediately told my father and eldest brother about this matter. My father coaxed my younger sister a few times and successfully extracted my current address. That night, I was beaten and kicked by the furious group. After they took all my savings, they strangled me to death with a clothes hanger. Before I died, I stared with reddened eyes, looking at my sister in disbelief. She was terrified, clutching the hem of Dad's clothes tightly. She tearfully explained, "I never wanted to leave home. Sister insisted on taking me away. Isn't this just making Dad misunderstand me on purpose?" It seemed she felt that such a display of loyalty wasn't enough. She stepped forward and kicked me hard twice, angrily shouting, "It's all your fault. Why did you have to run away? And why did you have to bring me along? Dad was going to hit you, not me." I opened my mouth, tears streaming down, but not a sound came out. It was clearly me who shielded her in my arms, taking all the violence for her. Everything I did was clearly for the sake of giving her a better life, too. After I died, she helped my father and eldest brother give false testimony. They portrayed me as a rebellious, money-stealing, runaway unfilial daughter. My father and brother were only trying to bring back their youngest daughter when they got into an argument with me. In the chaos, they accidentally caused my death. My death did not bring retribution to the murderer. They only served a few years in prison before being released. After my father was released from prison, he became even more unrestrained in his violence toward my sister. He made her take on all the household chores, forced her to drop out of high school, and eventually married her off to a 40-year-old bachelor in the village. Before she even turned 20, she was worn down to look like a haggard old woman. She blamed all this suffering and hardship on me. Not only did she personally dig my grave, but she also pointed and cursed angrily. "If you hadn't insisted on running away back then, you wouldn't have been beaten to death. If you hadn't died, would they have taken out all their anger on me? It's all your fault, it's all your fault." As memories flooded back, I clenched my fists tightly. My sacrifices were taken for granted by her as a human shield. Pity me. I've spent my whole life scheming for such people. 3. At that very moment, my ungrateful younger sister happened to come home from school. Seeing me packing up all my belongings, she furrowed her brows deeply. Sis, you're not planning to run away with me again, are you? I ignored her. She sat on the trunk with a backward lean, speaking somewhat disdainfully. Can you stop making a fuss? Dad just hit you a couple of times. And I've already comforted you. Is it really necessary to keep going on and on? What's the point of running away? You'll just get caught and beaten again. I suggest you just give it a rest. My movement suddenly stopped. Yeah, I've run away so many times before. Why is it that I always get caught? I looked at her, my gaze filled with coldness. Was it you who told on me? My sister, under my stare, shrank back a little out of fear, but still defiantly said, so what if it was me, if I hadn't spoken up and they found out? Wouldn't I have been implicated too? I took a deep breath, trying hard to suppress the anger in my heart. You should understand. Who am I doing this for? She muttered under her breath with a hint of defiance. With you at home, I won't get hit much anyway. I couldn't take it anymore and slapped this ungrateful wretch hard across the face. So in her eyes, I was nothing more than a human shield to draw our father's anger. If she hadn't betrayed me with her own hands in my past life, I would never have believed until my dying day that she was such a malicious and selfish monster. A crisp sound rang out, and the other person's eyes were filled with astonishment. She covered her swollen face, looking at me in disbelief. You actually hit me. Snapping back to reality, she jumped out of the car and started kicking and punching me like crazy. How dare you hit me? How dare you? When her father hit her, she never resisted. When her eldest brother scolded her, she would try her best to please him. Even when her sister-in-law bossed her around, she didn't dare utter a single word of complaint. Only towards me could she vent her bad temper without any restraint. This is what is known as being a bully at home. My patience is almost at its limit. I didn't indulge her. I grabbed her by the collar and flung her away forcefully, shouting, "Get lost. From now on, there's no relationship between us." My sister scrambled up from the ground in a disheveled state, her eyes suddenly turning cold and fixating on me with an intense stare. You think I want anything to do with you? You worthless burden. I'm going to tell Dad that you're trying to run away again. I'll make sure they beat you to death. Worthless burden. She was using the very words our father often hurled at me to insult me once again, as if by doing so she could stand on the same side as them. But the money-losing burden my father spoke of was never just me alone. I ruthlessly slapped her across the mouth several more times until blood trickled from the corner of her lips. A filthy mouth deserves an even harder beating. The little sister's face was twisted to the extreme, her eyes red as she hysterically threatened, I'd rather die than go with you. What are you going to do about it now? She still thought I would, like in the previous life, coax and persuade her to leave with me. Meeting her resentful and smug gaze, I sneered, I won't take you with me. You and your dear family can stay locked together forever. I want to see what kind of good life she can have in a family that favors boys over girls without my protection. For, after my younger sister Leonin ran upstairs crying, I didn't delay any longer. I closed the trunk and drove away. That very night, while I was still on the highway, my phone was blowing up with calls. In my previous life, it took nearly 3 or 4 days after I ran away from home for anyone to notice. Don't overthink it. This time it happened so quickly. It must have been Leonin who tipped them off. I simply blocked everyone's phone numbers, including relatives. It didn't stay quiet for long before the WeChat notification sound started ringing one after another. I turned on voice messages, and my eldest brother, sister-in-law, and father all sent me messages. I clicked on them one by one. The furious and threatening voice of my father, Li Jingguang, came through. You little brat, how dare you run away? Get back here right now, or I'll kill you when I find you. Hearing this, a smile curled at the corner of my lips. All right, then come find me. Without Leonin as a burden, I bet they could search to the ends of the earth and still not find me. The other party was clearly taken aback, not expecting me to be so audacious and arrogant. Once they realized what was happening, they became even more furious. They sent several voice messages in a row, filled with nothing but insults and death threats. I don't want to hear it. I might as well just leave. Next came the roar from my eldest brother, Li Yinghuai. You come home right now. The mortgage isn't paid off yet, and your sister-in-law just gave birth. She needs someone to take care of her. If you come back now, your sister-in-law and I can still help hold Dad back. I sneered and retorted, go back and let you all suck me dry again. Sorry, but I'm not serving you anymore. Don't even think about taking another penny from me from now on. What did you say? You come back here. Otherwise, we're cutting ties. Heh heh. Seeing them so flustered and furious actually made me feel much more at ease. My eldest brother, Li Yinghuai, has a gambling problem. The reason I left was because I found out he had lost a huge amount of money. In my previous life, I accidentally overheard my father's conversation with him. To repay a debt of 700,000, they discussed marrying me off to a man in his 50s back in our hometown who was on his third marriage, in exchange for a bride price. They also contacted human traffickers, planning to sell my sister. In this life, their plans have fallen through. I wonder how much chaos the debt collectors will bring to our home. 5. Next, as expected, it was a message from my sister-in-law, Qianlan. Compared to the vulgarity of the previous two, Qianlan adopted a tone of earnest persuasion. Qingqing, why did you run away from home without saying a word? Every family has conflicts. Don't be willful. Come back soon. Family. These people, are they even worthy of being my family? Qianlan, stop pretending. Go back and be a nanny for yourself. Instead of nagging me here, you should keep a closer eye on your own husband, so you don't end up losing even the money for your child's milk powder. My words hit her right where it hurts. She has always despised our eldest brother's gambling habits, but she's also afraid of him. Every time, she secretly vents her frustrations to me. At first, I thought Qianlan was a woman with a naturally kind heart. I was foolish enough to actually try to persuade my older brother on her behalf. The result was that I ended up crossing him, and my brother angrily shouted, "Damn it, even you are starting to lecture me now." Seeing that the situation was turning bad, I was just about to explain when my sister-in-law, Qianlan, said to me in a reproachful tone, "Qingqing, your brother has always known what he's doing. Who are you to criticize him?" Finally, under Qianlan's constant urging, the family realized that I had a job and it was time for me to repay them. From then on, I became their source of financial support. Qianlan was arguably the person in the family most afraid of me running away. She knew very well that without me, relying solely on the Li family's spendthrift men, she and the children would struggle to even have enough to eat and wear. In this life, she won't escape my revenge plan either. Cornered by me, Qianlan suppressed her anger, and her tone began to turn sarcastic. "Qingqing, why won't you listen? You don't care about us. But do you not care about Nen either? You wouldn't want Nen to suffer innocently because of you, would you?" Her tone was filled with unmistakable threat. "It's a pity that I've already been reborn, and I can't wait for that ungrateful person to face retribution." I sneered. "How could Nen come to harm? She's always been loyal to you all, and I believe you'll take good care of her too, right?" Seeing that the threat wasn't working, the other party didn't even bother pretending anymore and screamed, "Fine, let's see how long you can keep up that tough talk." 6. The next day, as soon as I opened the app, I received dozens of images and a long video. All that met the eye were scenes of Lianan being beaten by Li Jingguang. She was curled up in terror, crying and begging for mercy. In the past, although Li Jingguang was merciless towards both me and Nen, because I desperately protected her, Nen had never been seriously injured. Even if she got a small scratch, I would feel heartbroken and guilty for a long time, blaming myself for not protecting her well. This time, without me desperately protecting her, it was her first time facing her father's fury. I had thought that, given how eagerly she had curried favor and actively informed on others, the family would at least maintain a facade of fatherly kindness and filial piety for a few days. As it turned out, I had overestimated them. In their eyes, Lianan was not even worth as much as a dog. Immediately, Li Jingguang sent a vicious voice message. "See that? If you don't get back here right now, I'll beat this little bastard to death." If this had happened in my previous life, seeing such a scene would have filled me with heartache and guilt, but now, I only feel incredibly relieved and satisfied. Unable to suppress the smile curling at the corners of my mouth, I replied, "Nen likes you so much, I believe you definitely can't bear to kill her, right?" But what I actually thought was, "You better mean what you say." After sending the voice message, without waiting for his reply, I directly turned off my phone and had a wonderful sleep. 7. After that, they still hadn't come to terms with reality and continued to use Lianan to threaten me. During this period, Lianan has suffered inhuman torment. In the video, Nen was bruised and swollen. pitifully begging me to come back. From the threatening fragments I heard at home, I also learned that they had been driven into a corner by debt collectors. It was also not hard to see from the background of the video that the house was in complete disarray, smashing and breaking, throwing and shattering, and then said pitifully, "Sister, if you don't come back soon, they're going to sell me." I sneered. "Then if I go back, won't it be me who gets sold?" Leonin suddenly choked up. A flicker of guilt in her eyes. A moment later, she looked around, leaned closer to the camera, and whispered pleadingly, "Why don't you take me with you too?" I laughed and said, "Didn't you say you absolutely didn't want to leave?" Leonin put on a pitiful expression and said, "Sis, I was wrong. Dad is a demon who only knows how to hit me every day, and my sister-in-law doesn't treat me like a human either. She orders me around as she pleases. They won't give me money for tuition. And without you, I can't even afford to go to school." She poured out her miserable situation, and the more she spoke, the more tears flowed. Perhaps only now did she realize that without my support and protection, she could hardly take a step forward and felt life was worse than death. My heart remained completely unmoved, and I even felt a sense of satisfying relief. "It can only be said, you reap what you sow," I replied coldly. "What does that have to do with me?" Leonin's crying abruptly stopped. She looked at me with an expression of disbelief and asked, "Don't you feel the slightest bit of heartache? Don't you care at all whether I live or die?" She seemed unable to believe that her sister, who had always cherished her as if she were her own life, had suddenly become so indifferent. I laughed and said, "I don't quite understand what you mean. You love your dear father so much. How could I bear to separate a father and daughter?" My words extinguished her last glimmer of hope. Leonin widened her eyes, her expression twisting bit by bit. "You'll regret this." A week later, a missing person notice went viral. In the video, the father held Anan, while the elder brother and his wife sat on either side, beginning their clumsy attempt to gain sympathy. All of them were in tears, accusing me of my misdeeds. In their words, I became a malicious girl who smoked, drank, engaged in promiscuous behavior, had abortions, rebelled against tradition, stole money shamelessly, and was greedy for vanity. Not only did they spread rumors that I often hit my sister, but to satisfy material desires, I also stole all the family's savings and ran off with a delinquent. The family is now drowning in debt and struggling to survive. In just a few days, the video received hundreds of thousands of likes. Even influential bloggers helped share it. Li Jingguang faced the camera, humble to the core, saying, "Daughter, money can be earned again. I don't blame you. I only beg you to come back." Leonin, with bruises all over her face, said, "Sister, as long as you're willing to come back, you can vent your anger however you want. I promise I won't fight back or talk back." The eldest brother also said with a sorrowful expression, "It's just that our family is poor and can't satisfy our sister's material desires, but we really don't want to see her go down the wrong path. We beg kind-hearted people online, if anyone sees her, please notify us. We'd be eternally grateful." Afterward, they shamelessly posted all my private information online, the schools I attended, the places I worked, and even my photos. For a moment, I was pushed into the spotlight. A group of people online, unaware of the truth, fiercely condemned me. They called me a born troublemaker. What's the point of keeping a daughter like this? She should be sent to the KK park and dealt with using electric batons. How could you beat your own sister like this? This already constitutes intentional harm, right? I support this father in calling the police. I'm serious. If this were my daughter, I'd just bury her to prevent her from harming society. Online outrage is rampant, with some even threatening to dox me. Looking at these idiots being manipulated by public opinion, I just find it ridiculous. If even one of these people were serious, they would realize how absurd this is. If I stole all the family savings, at worst we'd be left in poverty. How could that lead to debt collectors coming after us? I beat my sister, leaving her covered in new wounds on top of old ones. How could I have done that while being missing for a month? If these so-called family members are truly as simple and humble as they appear on the surface, how could they expose all their daughters' privacy and commit such a shameless act, knowingly breaking the law? However, netizens tend to follow the crowd. They only want to see what they believe. I clench my fists, suppressing the anger in my heart. "Very well, since you want to play, I'll keep you company to the end." 9. as the saying goes, if you want to destroy someone, first let them become arrogant. They used public opinion to force me out. So I'll add fuel to the fire and let them get burned by it. These past few days, I've stocked up on supplies, taken a long vacation, and stayed at home, trying my best not to be discovered by those self-righteous do-gooders online. After that, I quietly followed the developments online. After a week of build-up, Li Jinguang's account had accumulated over 100,000 followers. The time was right, so I reached out to him. As soon as the call connected, a gloomy voice came through from the other end. "Yuri back." I quietly pressed the record button, then I spoke coldly. "Li Jinguang, you're full of lies. It was you who abused me and it was your older brother's gambling that put the family in massive debt. Yet you've twisted all these wrongdoings and spread rumors about me, not only exposing my privacy but also exploiting the kindness of netizens to cyberbully me. Do you even have any shame left?" Li Jinguang sneered on the other end of the phone, his voice full of smugness. "You little brat, it's useless for you to say anything now. I just played the victim, and those idiots online believed it. By the way, it was all Anan's idea. If it weren't for her, I wouldn't have thought of using this trick against you." So it was Li Anan's idea. How should one evaluate such a person? Instead of using their petty tricks against the bullies, they used them all on me. The term ungrateful wretch is perfectly embodied in her. I took a deep breath and continued, "You have no conscience at all. If it weren't for your domestic violence, Mom wouldn't have committed suicide, and I wouldn't have run away, and now you're pretending to be a loving father online. It makes me sick just thinking about it." Li Jinguang didn't care at all about my accusations. Instead, he became smug and self-satisfied. "I don't give a damn about you, let me tell you. I've already signed a contract with the platform for live streaming sales. I'm about to skyrocket to fame as an internet celebrity. By then, your reputation as an unfilial daughter will spread even further, while I'll be seen as the pitiful father in everyone's eyes, making a fortune." After saying that, he burst into laughter again. He seemed ecstatic about the bright future he had envisioned for himself. My fingers tightly gripped the phone, my knuckles turning white from the force. But my voice remained calm. "Li Jinguang, don't get too cocky. Heaven sees everything, and you will get what's coming to you." After saying that, I hung up the phone, looking at the fully recorded conversation. A mocking smile couldn't help but curl at the corner of my mouth. 10. In the following period, Li Jinguang indeed started live streaming sales. Unfortunately, how could I let them actually get even a single cent? I still want to watch them be pushed into an abyss of eternal doom by the massive debt their elder brother owes. After the live stream ended, before I even got paid, I decisively contacted the media and released the recording. The next day, the content of this recording exploded on social media platforms. Netizens flooded into Li Jinguang's account, with the comments section filled with voices of anger and disappointment. Meanwhile, under the videos on my account, tens of thousands of comments emerged, and the popularity skyrocketed. It turns out all of this was fake. The so-called loving father is actually the real villain, at Li Jinguang. So you're the actual domestic abuser. How dare you slander your own daughter? Absolutely disgusting. I used to sympathize with you, but now it's clear you're just scum, exploiting people's kindness for hype. Go to hell. This whole family is profiting from their daughter's suffering. And they still have the nerve to do live stream sales. Is the platform blind? What are they waiting for to ban them? With the recording exposed, public opinion has completely reversed. In just 2 days, netizens who originally sympathized with Li Jinguang have turned against him. Li Jinguang hasn't even had the chance to enjoy the benefits of being an internet celebrity or received any money from product endorsements before his contract was terminated due to the scandal. And he now faces huge penalty fees. It's easy to imagine that the Li family is completely panicking. Early in the morning, I opened my phone and was bombarded with hundreds of messages. They were filled with the Li family's rage and death threats against me. However, Li Jinguang would not just surrender without a fight. The next day, he posted a video on his personal account to clarify. He insisted that the recording was fabricated by me and that he was innocent, urging netizens not to believe it easily. He then went on to stage a performance with so-called relatives and neighbors to prove that his character was beyond reproach. Meanwhile, my classmates and former colleagues also began speaking up for me one after another. They had long noticed the situation online and had been supporting me all along. At that time, public opinion was on Li Jingguang's side, and their few words were easily drowned out. I didn't give Li Jingguang a chance to catch his breath. I directly released the pictures and videos of him beating Lianin, as well as the chat records of his death threats against me over the past few days. This solidly confirmed his guilt of domestic violence. Li Jingguang's reputation instantly hit rock bottom, leaving him with no possibility of recovery. This time, not only were the police looking for him, but debt collectors were closing in relentlessly, and even the contract compensation amounted to millions. The Li family was completely cornered with no way out. Not long after, Li Jingguang completely deactivated his account. Through friends, it was learned that, in order to evade their debts, they had indeed fled to lay low. By the time the debt collectors showed up at their door, the place was already empty. I thought about it and still asked my friend for those people's contact information. I'm not planning to let them off so easily. 11. But I never expected that Li Jingguang and the others actually managed to find my address. A few days later, when I came back from grocery shopping, I discovered through my home surveillance that they had already entered the house. I immediately left the neighborhood. On the surveillance footage, I could see the figures of my father, my eldest brother, and Lianin. My eldest brother, Li Yinghuai, was rummaging through my room, trying to find anything valuable. Through the surveillance, I could even see the furious expression on my father Li Jingguang's face. He grabbed Lianin by the hair and asked viciously, "Where is your sister? You're not lying to me just to avoid a beating, are you?" Lianin was covered in wounds, her hair as messy as dry grass. Trembling, she shrank back fearfully, yet there was a glint in her eyes. "I swear, she must be here. Let's wait a little longer." Seeing her so certain, Li Jingguang snorted and released his grip. Lianin got up from the ground, her face full of flattery, and said, "Dad, my sister has brought so much suffering to our family. When you find her, you must beat her to death." Li Jingguang glanced at her with disgust and kicked her in the stomach. The action was so natural and smooth. One could say that hitting people had become muscle memory for him, but thinking about it, it made sense. The idea of fabricating a sob story online was Lianin's. But now not only has it failed to bring any benefits, it has turned her into a public enemy that everyone wants to beat, fleeing from place to place. She has also ended up with a huge debt. It's true that Li Jingguang and the others despise me deeply, but since they can't find me, all their resentment is naturally directed at Lianin. It's a miracle that Lianin hasn't been beaten to death by now. Lianin was kicked so hard that she couldn't get up for a long time. Li Jingguang cursed angrily, "Useless money-losing burden, who are you to tell me what to do? Go buy me a bottle of liquor." "Don't be angry, Dad, I'll go right away." Enduring the pain, Lianin staggered to her feet and walked toward the door. Behind him, Li Jingguang grumbled again, "If we still can't find your sister this time, I'll sell you off to pay the debts." Hearing this, Lianin trembled all over and put on a fawning expression. "Don't worry, Dad, sister is definitely here. If she still doesn't come back, I'll take the initiative to message her and tell her I'm going to kill myself. She cares about me so much. She definitely wouldn't want me to die." Li Jingguang knew very well how much I cared about this younger sister. Hearing this, his expression softened slightly. "That's good." Lianin breathed a sigh of relief, her eyes turning vicious. "It's one thing for my sister to run off and live a good life on her own, but she also schemed to bankrupt our family. When we catch her this time, Dad must not go easy on her. It would be best to beat her to death." As she thought about it, a smug and ferocious smile spread across her face. It was as if all the suffering she had endured had left her feeling deeply resentful, and now she could finally make me taste it too. Originally, I thought she was just foolish and selfish, unable to see the reality. Now it seems she is inherently twisted and malicious. She loves whoever hits her, and harms whoever loves her. I let out a cold laugh. "Since that's the case, you and your loyal, good father can stay locked together forever. You won't miss out on the good days ahead." I wasn't worried at all. I had already thought of a plan and leaked their whereabouts to the debt collectors. Those people are all troublemakers from the streets. Which one of them hasn't got blood on their hands? They're the perfect match for Li Jingguang, who's tough at home but a coward outside. I stayed at a nearby hotel myself, waiting quietly for the right moment. 12. It wasn't until the next afternoon that Li Jingguang and the others were found by the group of debt collectors. Before they could wait for me, the door was violently forced open. When they saw who had arrived, my father, elder brother, and the others froze in place, their faces filled with terror. In their eyes, not only had the previous debt been left unpaid, but they had even disappeared and run off to such a distant place. This was simply like pissing on their heads, making them lose face completely. A group of people became furious with shame. As the two pleaded for mercy to no avail, the scene suddenly turned brutal. Li Jingguang and Li Yinghuai were surrounded in the center of the living room by a group of menacing debt collectors. The color drained from their faces instantly, and their legs trembled uncontrollably. The burly man leading the group grabbed Li Jingguang by the collar and slammed him hard onto the ground, his fists hammering down on his face like iron mallets. Then, a heavy kick landed on his ribs, sending Li Jingguang's body tumbling several times like a ragged sack, a painful groan escaping his lips. Before Li Yinghuai could escape through the window, he was pinned to the ground by two other men, who began beating him even more violently. And Lianen was so frightened that she huddled in the corner, trembling uncontrollably the entire time. The Li family men, who were accustomed to speaking with their fists, finally got a taste of their own medicine. The violence lasted for an unknown amount of time, only stopping when the sound of police sirens was heard. Through the surveillance footage, I saw the two people on the ground covered in blood, twitching, and it was unclear whether they were dead or alive. It's so satisfying to watch. 13. The debt collectors were eventually brought under control, and my father and eldest brother were sent to the hospital for emergency treatment. In the end, my eldest brother became a vegetable. When my sister-in-law Qianlan found out what happened, she cried her eyes out, but it was all for herself. She angrily yelled at the person on the bed, "If you want to die, just die quickly. Why drag me into this? Don't expect me to take care of you. Let's get a divorce." Then she grabbed the child and ran off without a trace. However, I knew that her days afterward wouldn't be easy either. Although those who beat people up were arrested, the casino boss wasn't short of other thugs. They won't give up until they get the money. Li Jingguang had also lost the use of one leg, and he vented all his anger on the trembling Lianen beside him. "Were you lying to me all along? Your sister wasn't even there." Lianen stepped back in fear and hurriedly explained. "That's impossible. She was there. You have to believe me. She lives there." Li Jingguang's face, full of rough flesh, twitched. "We waited there for almost 2 days. Instead of your sister, we ended up waiting for those debt collectors. How did they know we were here? Did you and your sister conspire to lure me into a trap, setting me up to be caught like a turtle in a jar?" At this moment, Li Jingguang felt his speculation was entirely reasonable. This had to be the truth. He had been fooled by Lianen. Lianen's face turned deathly pale as she kept backing away. "It really wasn't me. It must have been second sister." Li Jingguang's eyes were as if poisoned, completely losing his sanity, and he began to viciously attack Lianen. Although he had a broken leg and was still in recovery, dealing with a young girl in her teens was more than enough. "It's all your fault for what happened to your brother and me. I'll beat you to death, you little beast." Li Jingguang cursed as he hit. Truly enraged, blood gushed out, staining Lianen's face. At that moment, I was hiding outside the hospital room door, watching everything unfold. Lianen fell to the ground, her peripheral vision catching sight of me outside the door. Her gaze shifted upwards, her eyes widening. At the last moment, she reached out to me, silently mouthing a plea for help. I just stared at her expressionlessly, watching the expectation in her eyes gradually turn to anger. Then to despair. Perhaps she finally realized that the sister who had always protected her wouldn't help her this time. 14. Before she could be beaten to death, I still managed to call the nurses and security in time. Li Jingguang was forcibly arrested by the police on suspicion of abuse and intentional injury. However, after so many days of beating, Lianen's life had come to an end. The last time I saw her, she was still glaring at me with a resentful look. The reason I went to see her was because I still had a hypothesis that needed confirmation. I met her unfriendly gaze and got straight to the point. "You've been reborn too, right?" When she repeatedly confirmed that I lived in that rental house, I guessed that she also remembered what happened before. At this moment, Lianen's eyes were mature beyond her years, of course. With her memories restored, she wasn't really a child anymore. She just stared at me resentfully. unable to utter a single word. I knew she was pitiful, so in my previous life, I did everything I could to protect her, hoping only to give her a beautiful future, to watch over her and help her grow up well. It was she who personally broke that path and mercilessly pushed me into the abyss, knowing she was still being abused, yet remaining stubbornly silent, instead of blaming the perpetrator. She placed all the blame on me. Even after my death for many years, her hatred for me remained unextinguished, digging up my corpse and grave. Her hatred penetrated to the marrow. She is pitiful, but also detestable. Such a person is not worthy of sympathy. 15. After Anan passed away, I charged Li Jingguang with intentional homicide. He was sentenced to death. Compared to Anan, I couldn't even be bothered to see him. My feelings for Anan are complicated because I once loved him deeply. But for this so-called father, I've never had a shred of expectation or affection. Not even hatred is real, because I don't care. When everything was completely over, I packed my bags and moved to another city once again, ready to plan my wonderful life. In this lifetime, I will no longer be hindered by anyone.